welcome to the Talkcast Podshow, the #1 show on the internet, and your royal guard of Mars. I am your host, the hero among heroes, Lan Omniman, and I'm joined today by the dastardly, the vile, the battling Kaiser Beast.
Oh, okay, cool. I was wondering where we're gonna go, and somehow, Battle Beast didn't even cross my mind. But I appreciate that. I respect it.
I had to find some way. It's a bit of a stretch, as like, some of these puns often are for me. But I saw that character who is holy shit OP. I can't wait to see where they go with him.
Yeah, Battle Beast is nuts.
But we'll talk a bit more about him as we get into the discussion of the show. Which, by the way, right off the bat, if you can't see beneath me, spoilers. Massive spoilers for anybody that hasn't already been spoiled on the show. We'll be pretty much going straight into spoilers on Invincible.
Yeah.
But before we do, I want to go through a brief segment that we like to call the rundown to talk about some things that might not make for a full episode, but are nonetheless poignant for those watching. And first and foremost of that is that the Talkcast Podshow will be moving over to 4-Star Bento, starting with the next episode.
Yep.
So, for those of you who haven't subscribed over there and are enjoying the Talkcast Pod Show, as I know you are, being the #1 show on the internet and all that, he says so humbly, make sure to go check out 4-Star Bento, where you can also check out our takes on this season of My Hero Academia. So far, we're 6 episodes in, and it's we have opinions, so feel free to check those out if you want to clash our opinions with yours. We always appreciate feedback, as well as our many feelings on Falcon and Winter Soldier, and many more to come. We figured that channel would be better fitting for the long-form discussion content that maybe the general audience on the main channel aren't quite looking for. They're sitting there, they're like, where's the next episode of Hiffle? Where are the dragon shorts? Can I get a heads up on Magic Time Wizards? And guess what? Yeah, I think you can this week, because this Friday, episode 2, it be a dropping.
Yep.
Right here on TeamFourStar. So for those of you sticking around, thank you kindly. And for those of you who want to continue to check out the Talkcast Pod Show, whether you're watching it on YouTube over on 4-Star Bento or checking it out on any of your many podcast distributors, we greatly appreciate it. And especially... go ahead.
I'm just going to say that I'm really looking forward to the next episode of Magic Time Wizards. That's all. It's really good.
I am as well. Kieran, Grant, and Stefan have something real special going on there, and I really hope that other people realize that as well. It is a lot of fun. Speaking of Kieran and Grant, they recently started up a little series on TFS Gaming known as Dinner Time Gaming. So if you're hungry for some games, grab your spoon, because they're serving it up. And right now they're playing through Dark Side of the Moon. It's an FMV game from the creators of Contradiction. You might remember Jenks the Detective. If you haven't, it was a really fun playthrough that they had with that. So please, by all means, check that out. They are having a lot of fun, and it is a very special sort of game.
Also, don't recommend a spoon for this kind of comedy. This shit is so thick, you need a fork and knife.
I let mine melt a little bit beforehand. I let it, sit in the bowl a little too long. Speaking of games, though, a game that I completely dug into over the weekend, and I know you've been dipping your toe in there as well. Resident Evil 8 dropped, and
yeah, man,
it has been a lot of fun. It is very reminiscent of Resident Evil 4 with its setting and its tone, and I dig that. I dig a lot of that.
It's a lot like, it reminds me a lot of Resident Evil 4 because of the whole village aesthetic, but I will say, I do feel like this might be one of the more, I feel like this is one of the, how do I put this? This feels campier than 4 did, which is funny because 4 had plenty of its own camp, but I think the whole thing with Dimitrescu, like that whole group of villains, it feels like we're getting closer and closer to Devil May Cry territory with every game.
It definitely harkens back to, the Universal classic monsters, the fact that you have werewolves, vampires. I won't spoil too much because I know you're only a little bit into it, but we get some very interesting creatures in here that are very reminiscent of that sort of classic golden age of horror of Universal era.
It's especially after 7, where 7 was no, it's just fucking mutant people in a swamp. That's it.
It was House of a Thousand Corpses, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, very reminiscent of that sort of grungy horror.
Which it's sort of neat. Resident Evil is starting to become this game that sort of just tackles different genres of horror. Like the initial couple of games, zombie games. But then you get something closer to House of a Thousand Corpses, The Hills of Eyes. Now it's fucking classic Monsterverse. It's neat. I can sort of dig it.
Yeah, and I've played through the game in its entirety already. In fact, I've gone through mercenary mode. I'm trying to master that so I can unlock some of the special weapons, and I'm currently going through a hardcore gameplay. Just kick up the difficulty.
Nice.
Use all the weapons that you got in New Game Plus, because Resident Evil games are very, very replayable. There's a reason that they're one of the most speedrun games out there. One of the most speedrun game series. Yeah.
Which, by the way, some people have complained about how short Resident Evil 8 is. Go fuck yourself. I want a short game. Give me some short games. I need some short, beautiful games.
It's not even that short. I mean, when people say short, they mean less than 40 hours these days. And I can't get behind that. This game, I beat it. I meandered at times. Like, I'm not gunning through it, but I made it through at a modest, 9.5 hours. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's a bad pace.
I will say Resident Evil 3 was sort of disappointing in that regard, but that's just because I felt like
the set pieces were less interesting. I'll say this about 8 compared to 3. It has a lot of really cool set pieces. I know you're still at Castle Dimitrescu. You're still dealing with the daughters and the lady. But the lady. Miss Vampire Double D and all that. There's a lot of different types of gameplay that you're going to go through in this, and it's very interesting. Like, one section is going to be way more action-oriented, one section is going to be way more, horror and stealth-oriented, and it blends all of these things very well, where it doesn't feel like it's a different game when you do it, and I think it does it very well.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to more of it. I was thinking about maybe doing some of it tonight, but in case some of you, I know I already see a couple of you in chat who were probably there last night. I couldn't sleep, really badly, and I kind of had an insomnia stream to where I was up till 7 in the morning. So I haven't slept a whole lot, so I might not do that tonight, considering I didn't exactly, I'm not fueled up, as it were, so.
I'll probably see how much more I can blitz through of this hardcore, the hardcore gameplay. Now that I've beaten the game one time, I want to see how fast I can get through to try to get some of that completionist stuff. I missed a few items that I kind of now know where they are. So, see if I can snag some of those on my second way through the game. But yeah, I'm guessing that'll be on twitch.tv/KaiserNeko for you.
Yeah, it always is. I think, we're actually working on a little video for Resident Evil 8 for the main gaming channel that I'm really looking forward to.
A little mix down of a few different perspectives of some of the bigger moments. It should be fun.
I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully my frame rate isn't too bad.
Yeah, I had to warn Jesse beforehand because I know Jesse's also a little behind, has not beaten the game. So I'm like, yeah, look, all the footage I'm uploading, I beat the game. Just be careful when scrolling through that if you don't want spoilers. But I'm excited. I'll continue on with that a little bit later on tonight on twitch.tv/LannyPator. Plug. Oh, hey, thanks, Audio Dragon, for the plug here live for those of you joining us live. Much appreciated. But yeah, Resi 8, good. And is there anything else that really happening this week that you would think to bring up here? Because not a lot coming off the top of my head. There's that Mitchell versus the Machines thing that I haven't seen that.
If you haven't seen it, give it a watch. It's really cute. It's really fun. I personally really liked it. Venture Brothers. They just announced that they're making the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're getting a Venture Brothers movie. Thank fucking God. I was so sad. I'm on the last season now of my rewatch/first watch because I had to rewatch the first 4 seasons, but then the seasons 5 through 7 I haven't seen. So yeah, we're getting a movie. Also, the Venom 2 trailer giving us exactly what we wanted. Just Eddie and the symbiote being a couple. That's all I need.
I feel like I watched that and I'm excited to see it, but I felt like Venom was a little too silly in the trailer. Just a little too silly for me. From how it was portrayed in the first one.
I'm cool with that.
Okay.
I'm actually I like the idea that he's become sillier as time has gone on. So when he has to serious the fuck up, it's a great contrast because he's been a part of Eddie for so long. A lot of him's probably kind of rubbed off on him. I don't know. I personally dig it. I'm okay with it being silly and crazy and wild. That was my favorite part of the first one. In fact, that was the only thing that I enjoyed from the first movie was just Venom and Eddie's interactions.
Yes.
So if that's what they're emphasizing, fuck it, let's do it.
I'm just from my perspective, I'm just a little worried that it went a little too far in one direction, but we'll see. I actually enjoyed the first one, which was like the first time in a long while that I enjoyed a Sony superhero movie that wasn't directly tied to, Marvel.
Yeah.
Like Disney Marvel, that is.
I wonder what that Jared Leto Morpheus movie will be about. Oh, well, how good it'll be anyway.
I don't know, man.
Is it Morbius?
Didn't they? I think it's Morbius. Didn't they release a teaser trailer for that like 2 years ago?
Did they?
I feel like they did. It just kind of I remember just bats. That's all I really remember. Like the teasiest of teaser trailers.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's been delayed because of
course.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? But with that, let's talk about Invincible. Because the last time we talked about Invincible, other than like brief recaps talking about it, I think we were on episode 4. And since then, the rest of the show has come out.
Yep.
And I know you have feelings like I know you have feelings about episode 6 in particular. Like that one is like the college one.
I mean, it's personally my least favorite episode of the season for a couple of different reasons. One of them being it's just the ugliest episode in the entire show. Like there are just some shots that are downright.
I don't have as much of a discerning eye for animation quality as you do, so none of that really bothered me.
Maybe that is sort of a blessing and curse. The blessing of I can see when things are really good and when things are really bad. But yeah, I do feel like there were a lot of shots in episode 6 that were particularly underwhelming. And then there's just the whole like story with William and his boyfriend and being able to overcome a lobotomy through the power of love.
I have less of a hard time dealing with the power of love as a thing in a world where so many different superheroes exist with little to no explanation.
I mean, that's kind of fair, but they've also tried to represent that this world is very realistic while introducing like the superhero and unrealistic elements. Like those are supposed to be the fantastic stuff set in a world where things should be more realistic. But
what if he does have like a special gene or something to him that just allows him to ignore brain surgery or something? I don't know. Maybe he thinks with his heart or dick or something.
We'll just see how that comes. We'll see how that comes about later. Maybe he is in fact the super brain, or he just can regrow brain.
He can regrow brain.
There are no magic-based superheroes. There are superheroes.
That's not true. Demons exist.
Yeah, there are a couple of different magic. Damien Darkblood was technically a hero. Hell, Monster Girl is technically a hero, and
that's magic. She like her entire power is based on a curse.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely magic-based superheroes as far as I've seen.
Yeah, they might not have like a Zatanna or something like that, but there definitely seems to be forms of magic in the Invincible verse.
But yeah, we've talked. I guess we could just talk about the second half of the show. But like I do want to say, so after seeing the whole thing, I actually went back and I read a little bit of the comics because I wanted to actually compare, and it's really interesting to see the things that they cut and moved around because they cut a lot and moved around a lot. Like certain events play out in different times. It's crazy to see. And I do like how they adapted it. I don't think like all the changes were bad on the face of them being changes. In fact, I'm definitely one for if you are adapting a comic book, Do not go page for page. Don't go shot for shot. That's a terrible idea. Don't fucking do it.
Not at least not most of the time.
I would literally say none of the time. Because, okay, except for Sin City, but literally that made its whole pastiche. That was the whole idea, is what if just comic book made movie?
Yeah, so what you're saying is basically this is Kirkman going in and saying like, if I were to like re-edit this series, this is how I would do it.
Yeah, and I will also say there's the benefit of having the actual writer on board so he can make the decisions of what he thinks needs to be cut, moved, added. Like, Debbie as a main character is way, way, way better than she was in the comics by virtue of the fact that she gets to be a more active participant in the goings-on. She gets to figure out the mystery going on with Nolan. Like, the character of Amber, she's expanded greatly. Like, everything about her is, like, more interesting and, like, more involved, whereas she's barely a character in the comics.
I know I've heard from a number of people that the show actually goes out of its way to introduce you to the Guardians of the Globe before killing them.
Yeah, you get to see them, like, that whole scene at the White House, not in the comics. Damien Darkblood was barely a page in the comics. Like, then he gets a whole side story, which kind of doesn't go anywhere. I mean, what it really does is help emphasize, is it Dylan?
Do you mean, are you talking about like the Nick Fury type?
Yeah.
Cecil.
Why did I think Dylan?
Because his lackey type is named Donald, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, Bobby Hill, yeah. Cecil, like, it helps introduce Cecil as a character and really emphasize the fact that he is a man who will do whatever it takes to get it done. And I love that. It was really cool to see that. Like, there's so many interesting changes that were made, and but all on its own, this was a really, really good show. Like, spoilers, 8 out of 10 for me. This is an 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5.
I'd give it a solid like 9, maybe. Like, it's, I don't know what I would do to improve it, honestly. Like, in a lot of ways, because given like budgetary concerns, I felt like the show was incredibly well paced. I felt like everything was put together the way it would. It left me waiting and wanting more.
There were a couple of things that I feel like could have been improved on. And here's the thing, I'm going to meet the show on its own terms, knowing that animation is time-consuming and expensive, that it was their first season, so they weren't going to be given a whole lot of, well, time and money. And the reason that I bring this up is that some of the animation sometimes was just bad.
There was sometimes where they dipped into the CG stuff for some of the group shots that didn't look great, but I have seen a lot worse. Beyond
the really bad CG. Some of the 2D animation in a lot of places looked really janky and really limited in ways that kind of did take me out of some shots. Some of the 3D work during the flying was good. Some of it was bad. A lot of all of the CG people walking and hanging out in the background looked awful every time, and it was hard to kind of ignore it because there was a lot of them. So like there were some animation problems all throughout. Now, when the show looked good, it looked fucking great. It looked stupendous. There were some scenes I was just like, this is one of the best looking animated shows on television right now. But then when it looks bad, it just looks really distracting. Also, and I'm sorry, as much as I absolutely love Run the Jewels playing over the Mahler twins, I do feel like they overused the insert songs. Like the constant use of licensed music really, really kind of just didn't work for me.
I disagree. On that, I think we'll disagree. I feel like every time most of the time when they use the insert songs, I don't think they really distracted from much. I do think they kind of elevated some of the pieces that they were doing, or at least made them a bit more interesting if they were doing something a little bit more mundane, like, building a machine. So when they did insert the set piece songs, I never felt like they took away from the experience at the very least.
So again, I didn't hate all of them, but there were a lot of them that I just did not like. It was like, oh man, here comes the licensed music again.
Gotta sell a soundtrack, man. Gotta sell a soundtrack.
Oh yeah. The songs inspired by Invincible will absolutely be. If it's not already an album, it will be.
Yeah.
Also, And here's one thing that I really could have done with less of. And I know why they tried to do this, because it was Robert Kirkman trying to give the full scope of what it's like to be a teenage superhero. But some of the teen drama shit, not all of it, but some of it was trite as fuck.
I feel like we're going back to episode 6 here.
Yeah, episode 6 was kind of the worst of it. But it was all throughout, because the whole I want to be a superhero, but I also want to be a boyfriend thing. They don't do enough with it that's really interesting and really different and really subversive for it to have not felt anything but trite and boring here.
It did feel a little paint by numbers at time with that particular type of drama. It's like, well, I gotta have the secret identity, but I also, want to make sure things work out, and I want to save people, but I also want to be with her. And the one thing I did kind of dig about that, it's something that has been played out before in comics or other media, was the fact that she already knew, like she had figured it out. Like they didn't paint Amber as dumb. And so when he came and told her, he's kind of expecting like, okay, I understand. It's I understand, but I still don't accept this. Like, yeah. You still got to be honest with me.
So can I talk about that? Because that actually, I had an emotional fucking journey about that plot point, and I want to.
Yeah.
So when I first saw that, I was really pissed at Amber. Because Amber's like, yeah, I know you're a superhero. I don't care. And I'm like, and she says, you lied to me. And there's a part of me that got really instantly pissed. Like, of course he lied to you. That's called the secret identity. Do you not know how superheroes work? But then I had to kind of take a fucking step back. And it's and so talking about this sort of thing is always weird because superheroes don't exist. This premise cannot exist. But maybe if you're a superhero, don't start a relationship with someone you can't tell your secret identity to. Don't fucking do it. Because if you have to start a relationship with somebody that you are going to have to lie to, and also constantly devalue their time because you have to focus on your job and they can't even know what it is, maybe don't fucking do it. Don't. Like, don't try to start a relationship. Like, yeah. Because I've seen a lot of people really hate Amber for getting mad at him, but it's like, she didn't agree to date a superhero.
Yeah, she didn't know off the bat. She kind of learned probably during episode 6, if anything.
They make it sound like she's known for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, she might have known a bit before that, but I think episode 6 is what like really confirmed it. When the black-haired superhero approximately of her boyfriend's build shows up to save everybody from the robot.
And William, of course he gets it up close. He's like, he's up close with Invincible, and it's like, yeah, dude, that doesn't hide dick. You're not
nearly enough.
Yeah. But yeah, like, ultimately at the end of it, it's like, hey, so, you can't date somebody normal unless you can tell them what your secret identity is and let them make the decision of whether or not they want to commit to that. And I wish that development had taken more time to focus on that, because that is actually a really interesting dynamic that I don't think is explored enough in this type of material. Because I think a lot of people have this idea of the secret identity just being something that people have, and then it's up to the superhero to make it work. But yeah, I think I don't think it's okay for somebody to be kind of duped into a relationship that they didn't ask for. And a relationship with a superhero, yeah, that's not what Amber asked for. And she even gave him a chance to come clean about it. When she knew she didn't like fucking pull his cape, she was like, hey, tell me in your own fucking time. And then when he didn't, she was like, yeah, I fucking knew, and I'm calling it off. She called it off without even telling him, I know you're a fucking superhero. And yeah, that was neat. I thought that was really neat.
I was really, there's one thing, I understand all the misgivings with episode 6, but there are a few things that I did like about it. When he was going around and looking for Amber and he found her at that party talking to another guy, I was so worried that they were going to pull the jealousy angle. I'm like, I don't need to see that again. I don't need him to go like all emo Peter Parker over here. And he didn't. He accepted it and went and he did his thing, and he just try, like, he didn't even bring it up later. Not once. And that was something that actually kind of caught me off guard in that situation, because in that situation, that's the trope that plays out. It's like, you were talking to that guy and blah, 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 blah. But they didn't do that. Another thing that I kind of liked about that episode is what they did set up for the future when, the climax of the show is happening and all of a sudden all the zombie robots come out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I hate to do this. Some people are saying that I'm missing a point, and I know this is going to come up in the comments, so I have to address this here.
All right.
Yes, she calls him a coward for running away because she wanted him to fucking own up to it. She was waiting for him to say, I'm invincible. That was her trying to force him to finally open up about the fact that he's been hiding that. That's something you have to think about in retrospect. You have to post hoc justify it. She doesn't explain that's what she did, but that's a
little bit of critical thinking can get you there, though. Like, I figured in that moment she's using his lie to justify her anger. She's like, I ran away. Okay, I'm not allowed to be mad at what I'm really mad at, so I'm going to be mad at that.
Yeah. And I know that that's not incredibly mature of her, although it's sort of difficult because if she's trying to allow him to come forward about it and be honest, maybe that's her way of trying to do it. Like, again, because it's his decision, it's his choice to tell her whether or if that he's a superhero.
Yeah.
She's trying not to pull that on him.
Yeah, she's been trying to bring him into her life, introduce him to her mom, a date that he misses, introduce him to something that she feels really passionate about, feeding the homeless, something that he misses and almost dies missing. So while that is probably the moment where she really figures it out, wait, where was he? Oh, he got hit by a bus. Wow, that must have been a hell of a bus to do that. That's probably where all the pieces started to connect for her. So when she forgave him for missing that big thing and for missing dinner, those are straws that are piling up on the back, so that when he ran away, which is in any other situation where, somebody's like, I ran off to get help, a normal person would be like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Good thinking if he was a normal person. But knowing that he is a superhero and then being lied directly to her face again right after all of this traumatic shit is going on, when he's talking about really wanting a future with her, but not trusting her with something that is so deeply vital to making that possible. Yeah, she's going to be pissed off. And that's not even taking into account that they're teenagers.
Oh, yeah, and they're also fucking teenagers, which is why you shouldn't hate Mark for this. That's the other thing. Mark's a kid. Mark doesn't know about any of this shit. She has every right to be pissed, but she doesn't hate him.
Most of the people don't hate Mark for it. Most of the people hate Amber for it, which is the thing that kind of gets me here, because logically it makes sense how she's feeling here.
Yeah, no, she's in the right. I'm gonna repeat this. Amber is in the right. If you were in Amber's situation, most of you would have done the same fucking thing.
Let's be real. They're both in the right because they're both doing what they believe is correct. She's just, Mark didn't realize that she knew, but he should have told her at some point if he believed that this was a relationship that he was willing to invest in, which was the whole dichotomy. That was the whole subplot, really, of that. His internal subplot for that was, if you're going to be with somebody, if you reveal your secret identity, that's it. You can't take that back.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think, my personal belief is that, he should never have tried to get into a relationship with her in the first place, because he was never going to be able to be honest with her until it was way into the, relationship, which, revealing your secret identity is a big fucking deal, which is why he shouldn't need to do it. It isn't a matter of, he needed to tell her. No, he needed to either tell her, which is his own decision that he gets to make, or he needs to not start that relationship. That's the two options. Now, again, he's a stupid fucking teenager who just got his powers, who has no idea how any of this works, so of course he's going to make mistakes. But that doesn't mean Amber shouldn't still be pissed about the things that he did, the way that he treated her. And we can drop off this subject because I feel like we've been into the ground, but it's important to me because I feel like some people don't treat certain character, like, honestly, it kind of feels a little bit weird that people aren't looking at Amber as their own person with her own wants and needs in this situation, because that's how it comes off.
Even though the show goes way out of its way to, show that she has her own wants, needs, life, and
but people
everything that comes with it.
But people get really mad at her because she was angry that he lied, which she should be angry about. Don't fucking lie to your spouse. Doesn't matter the reason, unless it is literally to protect them. Like
I think there's like they were getting to mostly. There's one thing I kind of disagree with. I don't think you shouldn't get into a relationship in general if you're a superhero, but you should not commit to a relationship unless you are willing to let them in. Because you like the heart wants what it wants, and you should go out on dates. You should be able to be a kid and enjoy life with somebody that you want to enjoy life with. Now, in their situation, speaking as somebody who married his high school sweetheart and has since gotten divorced, relationships change over time no matter what. So even if they had like really committed to it and gotten together on it, the odds of that relationship lasting throughout life, I don't know. But, it comes down to whether or not you trust that person. And Amber, throughout the entirety of the show, had proven herself to be trustworthy in terms of, at the very least, being able to keep such a secret.
Yeah. It's difficult. It's complicated. There's a lot of different factors that go into it from, but again, the one big thing to remember here is that this is all fantasy. Like, it's like, I can't even imagine a clear parallel that you could make to a real world experience like this. So a lot of this is like philosophical in a way. That's like, it's like putting, like, you have to kind of like look at it from a third person perspective.
I mean, because at that point you're asking yourself the question of, when do I know I'm in love? Because there are different types of love, and there are different stages of each of those types of love. But
I genuinely believe that unless you are in like, if you'd started a relationship with fucking Adam Eve, then it's easy. Like, they know that they're a superhero.
You both have mutual stakes there, which I know a lot of people were really leaning on the why isn't Mark dating Eve?
Yeah, which, I mean, that's kind of, that feels like the obvious one.
Yeah, that's kind of the love triangle subplot that seems to be going on and brewing a little bit. I don't know. I think so far everything's been developing in a way that I find interesting, but not cliche,
Yeah. But yeah, at the long and short of it, relationships are difficult, and I firmly believe that you shouldn't get into a relationship with somebody you can't, like, again, because here's the thing, it's not just like, oh, there was something in my past that's a little fucked up, and I want to know that you're okay with it. It is literally, I'm a superhero, and I wouldn't feel comfortable putting somebody in the position of telling them that after they fall in love with me. That's not fair to them. That's so super not fair. Oh, you're in love with me? Cool. Now let me tell you the thing that's going to make or break our relationship. Yeah, after you've already gone through this emotional development. No, I'm not into that. I think that's bullshit. Yeah, no offense to you.
You do run into that issue there of like, when is the right time to tell? Is it at like, because it can't be at the beginning, because you don't know if you like trust them with that information, because you have enemies out there that would exploit that information if they were to somehow get a hold of it.
Yep.
And social media being a thing, it's like, haha, I had sex with Invincible. Look at that, selfies. Anyway, you don't want to run into that situation.
Yeah.
So it's this like tricky dichotomy where, yeah, you could take it from the angle of just don't do it unless and you're willing to. But that seems so fatalistic in my mind. It's such a difficult thing to tackle where, ultimately at the end of the day, the message is, if you want a healthy relationship, honesty is the best policy. Basically, if you have to answer a question, answer it honestly. And for the most part, aside from omission, he kind of was. When she asked him, like, where are you going? Somewhere far away, deserty, dancing around the real answer of, I'm flying to Mars to protect people from Martians.
Yeah, and what if he had died?
What if he had died?
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
she wouldn't been prepared for that. She wouldn't have known that was even an option.
But the relationship's young enough at that point where if you're dating somebody for a couple of weeks and, God forbid, like they tragically die.
Well, yeah, but again, it is kind of this matter of like, what are you signing up for?
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's why I don't like it. You can die on Earth too. That's not my fucking point. My fucking point is that if you're a superhero, it is very likely that your life is on the line way more than a regular person. Yes, planes crash, cars crash, but when you're in a certain field, the rate of mortality suddenly goes up for some fucking reason.
Let's take the closest thing that I can think of to like a real world scenario. What if you're what if say you work either in, Vice as a cop or undercover CIA kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like those job hazards where you're traveling for business or work and all of a sudden you're killed in a mission and, the person you're dating then learns of it that way. That's probably the closest approximation to what you can get to like a superhero with a secret identity.
Yeah, a life that's going to constantly have you moving, constantly focused on your job, that puts your life at risk. Yeah, sorry. If I were in that job, I wouldn't start a relationship with somebody I couldn't be honest with that about. I wouldn't start one. I just wouldn't, because it's not fair to them.
But that's all up to the individual, I think. I think morally you are correct that it puts less strain on another person, but I'm also a big proponent of the heart wants what it wants. You feel something for somebody, you want to try to make something work, and then you have to negotiate with yourself when is the right time to let them know. And that's the big one. Like that's the biggest problem.
And someone's saying there were kids? Yes, which is why it's totally forgivable. It's like as I've said, everything that Mark did is legitimately forgivable. He's a dumb fucking kid. And that's why Amber doesn't hate him afterwards. She just doesn't want to fucking date him because she's like, nah, I'm not putting up with this. I don't have to and I shouldn't. And she doesn't have to and she shouldn't.
Yeah.
And so when she stops fucking dating him, yep, that's it. That's over. Doesn't hate him, but not gonna fuck him. And so, yeah, that's that. I personally, again, I'm in the court that I think Amber, like, despite the like somewhat immature things that she did, some of them were slightly immature but explainable, did not paint her as in the wrong here. She was in the right from beginning to end. Mark was in the wrong. And I will die. You put my fucking grave on this hill because I'm dying here.
Yeah, and for the most part, I agree with you on that. You and I have like a very, like a couple of key points that we disagree on, but I don't think that's an issue.
Well, it's important because I feel like when it comes to relationships, it's really important that both people be on kind of the same ground.
Like I said, honesty is the key.
Yeah. And that's why it frustrates me when I see people act like Amber should have been nicer to Mark about it, when no, Mark should have been honest, and if he couldn't be honest, then what is he doing starting a serious relationship that lasted 5 months, by the way? And some people act like 5 months isn't a long time. 5 months is more than enough time.
In high school, it's a long time.
Yeah, it's more than enough time to fall in love and think about like serious commitment.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the people that get upset about the fact that, like, Amber should have been more forgiving, et cetera, one thing I'm really happy that the show doesn't do is it doesn't play into the trope of the girl is the prize.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
She has her own commitments, and they aren't like enemies by the end, like you said. They're she understands, but she doesn't want a part of that.
Yeah, and that's why, I don't know, there's a part of me that's kind of one of the reasons I side with Amber on this one. Because he comes back up there and he reveals a secret identity. He's like, hey, turns out I'm a superhero. I'm letting you know now. This is my get out of jail free card. No, it's not.
Yeah, that's not how this works.
Yeah, and that just made him look worse. The fact that he thought, I'll just tell you and that gets me out of it. No. There was a million ways he could have gone about it, but he went the wrong way about it. And yeah.
Yeah,
then they got back together in the last episode because, well, it turns out I wasn't the only person being lied to. Oh my god. I'm not sure how I feel about that writing decision.
That honestly, given the fact that they're kids and that they obviously do have feelings for each other, it makes sense to me. I mean, like, she felt hurt, she felt lied to, but I think she still cares about him to the point that she still loves him. Like, I think deep down, that's what that is. And she's, who knows where that actual relationship will go. I think, season 2, I'm waiting on it.
I'm almost certain that's going to go. I don't see that relationship lasting personally.
There's certainly going to be issues, but that's for future talk. Meanwhile, on the superhero side of things, we got introduced to a whole bunch of plots, because I think one of my favorite episodes in the series before the 2-part finale. I think of it as a 2-parter because it really is. My favorite episode was, I think, episode 5, the one where he ends up helping the Rockman. I can't remember his name, like what his actual name was.
I can't remember it. Tombstone. It's just Tombstone.
Basically, like Titan. Okay, his name was Titan.
Yeah, he's a badass, by the way, and I love him.
Yeah, he was great. You saw him in the first episode where Invincible just kind of knocks him around, throws him through a building. So this guy knows, okay, this guy's strong. And the whole plot there, and against like the what was it, like the Techno Mind or something. I can't remember most of the character's name, but he like had like auto-tune for his voice. And he was really cool. But Machine Head.
Oh my god, the fucking auto-tune on the voice was so fucking good.
And it was really good. And that fucking fight where they introduced the strongest character in this series, it seems, Battle Cat, or Battle Beast.
Yeah, so we don't know his name until like later, but everyone basically online was like, his name is Battle Beast. And honestly, doesn't really seem like a goddamn spoiler anyway.
It's a Battle Beast.
Yeah, that's Worf, by the way. That's fucking Worf.
Still, though, like, he's fucking comes in there with that mace and wrecks everyone's shit. Just absolutely decimates them.
Like, I won't lie. One of the hardest moments to watch in the entire series is when it's Black Samson.
Mm-hmm.
Black Samson gets his arm broken, and that is just... whew! Like, I actually kind of, like, almost lost my lunch at that moment.
Dude got beat so bad, his body had to replicate his powers.
Yeah, he got beat so badly, his powers came back, which, by the way, is another, like, I didn't mention this earlier. That was really awkwardly handled by this show. Like, really awkwardly handled.
The whole him getting his powers back, or the fact that he had lost them in the first place angle?
Like, them, actually both? Because they talk about how he loses his powers, and then he gets them back. And it's like, okay, that's, I feel like there's a whole storyline that was cut here. It definitely feels like there was backstory that was just cut.
There was definitely something that it seemed like they wanted to expand upon, but they just didn't.
Yeah, and it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I'm okay with some environmental storytelling, like them giving it to us after the fact and us having to connect some dots. That's fine. It just feels a little weird, right?
But then they go out of their way to deliver some exposition that you can kind of figure out through that environmental storytelling. Like when Alan the alien shows back up at the very end, it's like, hey, by the way, you have a Viltrumite. When in the sequence where Omni-Man is describing to Mark exactly what Viltrumites really do, spoilers, they're essentially Saiyans. They just fly around and they're like Kryptonian Saiyans. That's what they do. They fly to different planets, they take them over, and if they don't, submit, goodbye.
Which, by the way, called it.
Yep, pretty much.
Which, yeah, and absolutely fucking, they're just Kryptonian Saiyans. Yep. They've got no Frieza. They're just Kryptonians, Saiyan via Kryptonians. And that's terrifying. It's a whole planet of Zods, which is like,
it's like if Zod had won on Krypton and somehow Krypton didn't blow up. Like, that's it.
Yeah. It literally, that's it. What if Zod won on Krypton and it didn't go to hell?
Yeah, so when he shows back up and explains the fact that, oh man, yeah, no, my planet got wiped out too. It was kind of already shown in the flashback sequence with the talk between Omni-Man and Mark. where you saw all of Alan the alien's people getting wrecked, and in my head I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So that's why this organization exists, to make sure that when big planetary threats like Viltrumites show up, there might be somebody there to try to defend the planet. And oh, he's just here to explain that to everybody. All right. I guess I needed to pad time at the end.
But I do love that scene, especially how it parallels their original meeting.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I was really happy to see him again because I think he's a very fun character. But I thought we weren't going to get that until season 2.
I was really glad to see it, particularly because I was like, wait, do they not fucking know? Like, for the longest time, I was like, do they not fucking know what's going on over on this planet? Like, because if the Viltrumites are this big thing, why didn't he bring it up that one was on the planet? And so when he comes back, it's like, dude, I was like, okay, that explains that, I guess.
It also kind of shows that they can't recognize Viltrumites by sight, because he had been there and he had fought Omni-Man at least once.
Yeah, and that makes me, I guess he just didn't know that was a Viltrumite. Which makes sense. There's a bunch of humanoid aliens out there. No reason to automatically believe that's a Viltrumite.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's...
Yeah, no, Seth Rogen as Alan the Alien is great. I love that character both times he showed up. I was just a little disappointed that they decided to just blatantly explain something that was kind of hinted at, because, I don't know, I'm one of those suckers where if you hint at something and it's like, paints a picture in my mind that I'm like, I can start connecting the dots myself, it makes me feel better if you don't immediately explain it afterwards.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of viewer I am.
I mean, it's for that one, I'm okay with it, just because it was kind of hanging in the air for a while. So when it came out there, I'm actually personally glad. I also, just because I love Alan the Alien a lot. So just him coming back is always a positive for me. I can't believe that's Seth Rogen. By the way, he's an executive producer for the show and also for the movie.
Yeah, he's working on the live action one,
which I think is a terrible, dumb idea, but I hope it works.
Seth Rogen fucking loves comics, man. Like, yeah. I say, do you, dude? I think the, like, you know what? I'll give it a chance when it comes out. I don't know what you're going to do with a movie, but
it's probably going to be fine. It'll probably, it might even be good. But you already have an animated series, you have the comic, and you have the boys. Why do we need a live action Invincible movie? This seems weird. Unless
go ahead.
Unless they use this as an opportunity to tell a story that's not in the comics.
Maybe.
I'd be okay with that.
Like if they make it as kind of a supplement to the animated series, or as a supplement to the comic.
Or I don't know much about the comic, so this might already be in there. But a movie all about Omni-Man coming to Earth and like his story. We get to see him fight some big villains and see how he came to be the person he is.
It could be interesting, especially like the part that has me the most curious about them making a movie is that this show seemed pretty superbly paced at 8 hours.
Yeah.
So when you want to try to crack that down to sub 3 hours, I don't know. You're going to have to cut a lot of characters.
Yeah, it's probably going to be about 2 hours and 10 minutes, and the entire thing is probably going to, like, they're probably going to have to cut the entirety of the, what are they called?
They'd have to cut, I feel like they'd have to cut a big chunk of the romantic subplot, probably. Man, I don't know how much you'd cut. Like, you'd have to cut some of Teen Team?
Amber would be out. They would probably, they'd probably have, like, another opening scene with all of the Guardians. Then they die. They probably don't show who kills them, although honestly at this point, who wouldn't know that?
So you think they'd frame the thing as more of a mystery?
Maybe. I don't know, because it's just so tough. I don't know why. Again, I think it's a really, really, really bad idea to make it a movie. But by the way, so you know what? Let's move on, because there's a character. Characters we haven't talked about, and I really want to talk about them.
Please do.
Robot. I want to talk about Robot because, first of all, the Mauler twins, all on their own, are fascinating and hilarious and great. But fucking Robot is strange as fuck. And he only gets weirder as time goes on.
Throughout the first half of the season, he'd been acting weird ever since his introduction. He had a little bit too much sass in him for just being a robot, so you already kind of knew something was up there. But when he starts collecting like Rex's blood, and I think he actually collects Mark's blood too. So
I can't remember if he collects Mark's blood, although it might have happened.
I'm pretty sure he did in one of the scenes. I'd have to go back. I feel like he did, or at least he attempted to, because he was doing like that weird shit throughout. And then then in episode 5, I think, or at end of episode 4, where you are, that's right, Donald collected Invincible's blood, not Robot.
So I was figure out how to kill it.
Yeah, because I was thinking for a second, so is Robot part Viltrumite? Ooh, that's gonna be weird. So when you get that reveal at, I think, the end of episode 4 of the baby man in a jar, you're like, oh, okay, let's see where this is going. And he's just looking to replicate himself a new body. And since the Mahler twins aren't in the comic, is that whole subplot out of... I heard that the Mahler twins aren't in the comic. Are they in the comic?
The introduction to the Mahler twins that we see in the comic isn't there. Like the White House stuff isn't there.
Never mind. That's the part I wasn't parsing.
No. They're definitely in the comic. Just the White House introduction isn't there.
It was the introduction that wasn't there. That's my bad.
Yeah. I now I don't know if the way that they interact with Robot and the way all this develops is in the comic, but I do know that they are in the comic and they play a big part.
I feel like it kind of has to be, because like the way it plays out seems pretty much like a translation would happen from the comic, but I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, this type of cloning is a nightmare. It is an existential nightmare. Because I've thought about this. Like, so somebody once introduced me to the idea that I don't think this is canonically how it works, but the idea that the transporters in Star Trek don't transport you. They essentially copy your data, disintegrate you, and then recompile you where you are. And so you basically die every time it happens.
And just a copy of you continues your existence.
Yeah. That's horrifying. That is super duper existentially horrifying. I hate that. Here
where they are just transferring the consciousness from one form to another, or copying the consciousness, not transferring. They are, so that's why they're always confused as to which one is the clone and which one is the original. And they even state, after getting up, or like, why don't you just mark the one that's the clone? Yeah, like, if one knows that it's the clone, it creates a whole bunch of different problems.
Yep. And that makes sense. It makes sense. Like, when you know that you're the clone and you know that you're the original is both. Someone's going to die. Someone's going to fucking die. Someone's going to fucking die.
There's a game that I absolutely love that plays with that idea as a psychological horror concept. The game's called Soma, and I very much recommend it to anybody who enjoys that kind of sci-fi what the fuckism. Because I don't want to like spoil the game too much, but essentially there's this point where you have to clone your consciousness into a different body in order to solve a puzzle, in order to escape an area that is infested with like horrible nightmare creatures, but the other one gets left behind.
Yep.
So you have to live with the fact that one of your consciousness is just going to live in hell forever, like this, or live there until it is gone. And it is such a good game. I recommend it very highly. It's from the same guys that did Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Yeah, that I'd heard. Yeah, that's pretty fucking terrifying. I like to think about. Yeah, the moment I was introduced to the idea of just, this isn't like, you're not transferring, it's a copy. I was like, oh, he's gonna die, and that's really like, because at that point, that is not just two of the same person. Very quickly, almost immediately, if you want to get philosophically, that becomes a new person. That is not the original. So when that person, that first one dies, that's the death of that person.
Yeah, I mean, it may like the new one may have all the memories, all the knowledge of the other one, but the first one is still itself. And the new one, while maintaining all of what made that person, now has a whole life ahead of it. So when he basically clones himself a new body out of the DNA of Rexplode, which
is really fucking creepy.
It's very creepy, and Rex is the first to kind of point that out. Especially his reasoning for doing it. It's like, oh, I just really I appreciate Monster Girl and the fact that she has a very similar issue being trapped in a body that she can't control like me. I also noticed that she kind of had an attraction to Rex, so I chose his body, logically speaking. And it's like, whoo, there's a whole box to unpack.
Yeah, like, there's a lot to approach there. It's like, yo, morally speaking, robot, what you just did was super duper fucked up. Philosophically, there's a whole lot of quandaries that you have introduced that it's gonna take everyone a while to get past.
Yeah, and they're all just like expected to accept him. I do love that scene though, where the Maulers are trying to like screw him over, and it's like, okay, and the truck that he drove in on just turns into a giant robot and starts fucking everything up. It's just like all this armies of robots show up, and like that's the first time I really thought, oh yeah, he would just have dozens of those, wouldn't he?
Why would he fucking not, right? No, and I love the fact that he's like, by the way, you're both going back to jail now. And it's like, did you fuckers forget? I'm a superhero. A lot of you thought I was being morally gray here. And yeah, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to put you back in jail and like prison. And I'm like, hey, that's great. Because I was actually kind of like, I was expecting a villain twist from him for a while. Like I was expecting, and not to say what he did wasn't bad. Like what he did was really bad and weird.
What he did was theoretically legal, considering he only answers to one person in that organization, which determines what laws they follow.
I wouldn't say legal, but it's
sort
of
legal.
Interesting. Like what he did was highly, highly questionable all across the board. Every single thing that he did was below board and absolutely inexcusable in certain ways. Like, but
from his point of view, it was probably nothing more than a cell transfer, like transferring them into different custody.
For him, it was just a matter of, okay, I'm going to move these guys over, then I'm going to make a new body for myself, then I'm going to put them back. No one's the wiser. I've got a brand new body that's based off the guy that the girl I've got a crush for has the hots for. It's all good, right? It's fine. It's fine.
There was only one person they had the opportunity to kill, and he didn't let them kill anybody else.
Yeah. Ethically, I was trying to figure out what the fucking word was. Ethically dubious.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why it's just really fun to see him operate the way that he does. And that'll be really, really interesting to see how it develops from here on out, now that he's got a human body.
It's clear that he's very much a creature of like extreme logic. He has emotions, and that's obvious. Like he has sentiments. He understands emotion, but he primarily operates life logically and
highly utilitarian.
Yeah, and I think everything to him is binary. I think a lot of things are black and white. If it's for the greater good, it's in the good category. And to him, getting a new body that, benefits him in all ways, shapes, and form is good. Because he believes that he is good for the world.
Yeah, well, that's the utilitarian standpoint that we're talking about. The fact that when it comes to utilitarianism, it really is a matter of, it's kind of like a consequentialism. Like, what is the end result? If the end result is a net good, then I might as well do it. And yeah, it's for him, it really just comes down to, if I think as many steps ahead as I need to. And unfortunately for him, he doesn't have a whole lot of an emotional range. Like, he doesn't quite understand why what he did to Rex was so absolutely fucked up. And I remember sitting there like looking at the body. I'm like, oh, if Rex sees this, he's going to shit his shit is what he's going to do. And yeah, he's like not okay with that, and he shouldn't be. I'm hoping the next season really kind of tackles that a little bit more.
Yeah. I am very excited for the next season, but let's talk about the climax of the show. The part that, got memed to death on the internet. Omni-Man, finally, coming face to face with Cecil. I actually really liked their confrontation. How Cecil just had to keep teleporting. Whew! It was so cool. And Omni-Man's just like, fucking God! And finally dropping the kaiju down and bringing back the Immortal, just throwing literally everything Earth had at him to try and stop him. And then when Invincible teamed up with him and finally the truth had to come out, Mark and had to come to peace with the fact that his dad is a murderer and is part of a essentially fascist race of planet conquering murderers. And now he's being faced with this incomparable, this incalculable destiny ahead of him of living at least 1,000 years while everything around him continues to change. And that is how do you wrap your head around that as a kid? We talked about the moral quandaries of him having a dating life. Now you're being told that you're going to live for 1,000 years, and you're stronger than anybody ever will be on this planet.
Not even 1,000 years. It's implied multiple.
Yeah, at least 1,000 years. At least 1,000 Earth years. So,
yeah. And that's
coming face to face with all of that information, and the fact that his dad does not or at least says he does not give a shit about humanity. That just throws his entire world literally flipped.
Yeah. And I was I kind of caught on, as we had in that last conversation, that I was personally of the belief that, the Viltrumites are probably a war race. I'm almost certain about it after that whole, because when he was talking about the Viltrumites, I'm like, you're giving us a lot of background on them, but it sounds like you're leaving something out, especially if you're a guy who's suddenly killing the strongest guys on the planet. Why would you do that? Oh, to make it so when the Viltrumites show up, there's less resistance. Okay, that makes sense. It's why he's watching over. It's the reason he was watching over the team. That's why he was looking over that. I forget what their name is.
The new Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah,
when
Guardians.
When they were training, he just looks down.
Pathetic. Yeah, at that point, it's that really kind of sold it for me. I'm like, yeah, he's definitely, not only is he a bad guy, but I think all the Viltrumites are. But the one thing that I was certain about from beginning to end was that he loved his wife and kid. I could tell that he had gained this relationship with them, one that he wasn't prepared for, and one that would ultimately undermine whatever he wanted to do. Funny enough, there's the line that he has about Deborah, where he says, I do love your mother, but more like a pet. And I don't think he even believes that. I think that's him rationalizing. I think that's him trying.
It's him trying to win Mark over to his side. Just look, I need to show you, in the grand scheme of our life, I do love your mother, like a pet, like something that is in my life for a brief period and will eventually go away. I'll be sad when it's gone. I mean, when you say you love something like a pet, as a man that has had lots of dogs and cats over my life, you love them very, very, very much. When they die, it is tragic. It's heartbreaking. You don't want to do anything for days. So for a creature that lives for over 1,000 years, I can kind of understand that. It's
again, I think he's still underestimating.
Oh,
what he
absolutely.
means, though.
Like I said, he's trying to like you were saying, he's trying to undersell it so that he can try to paint this picture for his son.
No, I think he's doing it for himself. I think he might be thinking about Mark there, But when he says that, I think he's wholeheartedly trying to prove it to himself, because the decision that he's having to make right there, like one of the biggest red flag for me was his response to when Mark got powers. The moment he got powers, he starts to freak out, and I'm like, why would he freak out? He's freaking out because he realized that if Mark is a person who was raised on Earth, when it came down to it, he was probably going to take Earth's side, and he was right. He was right. He was like, I need to train him and make sure that he's ready. But if I do that, am I going to have to fight him when the truth comes out? And lo and behold, when the truth came out, he had to go toe-to-toe with his son, and his son was not ready for that fight. Holy shit.
I was thinking about that and how that painted their whole dynamic in a different angle. The first time he just hauled off and sucker punched him, not necessarily as hard as he could, but sucker punched him. It was basically saying, you're going to have to learn how to take that punch if you want to save this planet. A planet that, he might legitimately care about, but he's trying to tell himself that he does not. He's trying to, stay true to his people, because eventually they're coming, and I don't think he thinks he can beat them, because they're all as strong as him. So he's setting himself up for this no-win situation, which this is where I'm going here. I think when he's, saying that, he thinks of his mother as a pet, et cetera, not only is he trying to say it to himself, but he's also trying to say it to Mark to kind of paint that picture of, look, and the same reason he beats the living fuck out of him, destroys Chicago, wipes out a village near Nepal or wherever that mountain was. He's doing this to show him, these people are very fragile, and if I can do this while you are trying to stop me, imagine what 5, 10, 15, 20 of me can do. I'm trying to save you and them from the wrath of a whole planet of me.
Yeah. And that was, I will say, for those of you who aren't familiar with the comic, the train scene was not in the comic. And if I'm going to be honest with you, the train scene is creative, but it's also way over the top.
I think it's excessive in all the right ways.
I was watching and I'm like, okay, we get it, Kirkman. He's trying to desensitize him to the violence. He's trying to fucking break him. But this is a little much. It's the point where the other scenes I was actually kind of distraught and oh my God, this is really hard hitting. When that happened, I laughed. And I don't know if I should have laughed there. Yeah, I don't know if laughter was what they were going for exactly.
You probably shouldn't, but it's the way I reacted to him. Jesus! Because the real hard-hitting part of that fight, the hardest hitting part of that fight, outside of any of their dialogue, was when he's trying to save that family from the collapsing building, and he fails. That is the oh shit moment. And then finally you end up with, his final monologue where he's like, I can just start again. But he chooses not to. He chooses to let Mark live and flies off into space, presumably going off to Viltrum, but we're not quite sure.
I doubt it's back to Viltrum.
I have no idea where he would be going. Although when they said they were tracking him, I guess, honestly, Earth doesn't really know where Viltrum is in the universe, so maybe they don't know what direction it is.
I do have to wonder what he's doing for air up there, because they can't hold their breath for a while. I'm kind of wondering, what's he gonna do when he has to breathe? Does he have a plan for that?
I'm willing to bet he has ways of dealing with that. First of all, we know that he can fly a lot faster than Mark, and out in space, in zero gravity, there's nothing to stop him from gaining infinite momentum. Nothing. The only things that would stop him would be passing gravitational bodies.
And I guess we're going to just throw the idea of how far a livable planet is from us in actual reality, because it doesn't matter how fast he goes, even if he were to approach the speed of light, which would destroy his body. It doesn't matter how strong he is.
Yeah,
it would still be years and years and years before he got to an actual celestial body that would be able to support him. But again, superhero story, there's probably one just outside the solar system.
It's also possible that Viltrumites can breathe other gases than oxygen. We don't really know. I mean, he could land on, like, he could make a pit stop at Neptune and just take a big old hoof of ammonia and shit and just keep going. Like,
yeah, maybe.
Who knows? Maybe he cracks open an asteroid, sucks in a bunch of liquid oxygen, breathes that in.
Oh, he breathes handwavium.
Oh, there we go.
I like that.
Yeah, he probably took a couple of pockets full of air with him. Just put it in there and just hold on.
I will say, so the conversation, that whole the whole fucking final conversation between Omni-Man and Mark is
pretty one-sided,
just soul breaking.
Yeah, it is.
Well, yeah, it's one-sided, but every single thing that Nolan has to say is all undone with the single thing Mark says, and that's amazing. What an amazing response. I'd be sitting there for hours trying to figure out how I would have that scene play out, and just you, Dad. I'd still have you. And
yeah.
I'm like,
just my heart. After everything.
Dad.
Because he still holds that man with such reverence. I mean, the whole flashback he was having was like, I want to be just like my dad. And like, even seeing him as the monster he was, he knows what type of good he was capable of. He's seen him at a face level on a daily basis where it's impossible to comprehend that entire time while, raising the family, while being the family man, while protecting people on Earth, that he was planning to conquer the planet. There is no way that he is devoid. There is no way that he was devoid of good throughout all of that. And it's proven when he lets Mark live. And by the way he trained Mark.
Yeah. And this is not us saying like, oh, Omni-Man, you could be redeemed. But it is important to know, like, to see the whole character and the emotional complexities within him, because that plays into the actions of everything that he does and why he leaves in that moment. Why in that moment he decides, I can't do this. Why he looks at his hands covered in his son's blood. Why that last shot on his face when he realizes, I can't kill my goddamn son. And it's like, goddamn, holy shit.
Yeah,
I did not expect that.
And he was trying to break Mark emotionally so hard. I can just start again. What's another 17 years? Just
yeah. That is
like the epitome of him trying to rationalize this to himself. Like, he is talking to himself more than anyone out there.
Because at some point he would have just essentially how do I put this? At that point, he could have killed Mark at any time. He could have ended that fight, but he didn't. He kept pushing, and he kept pushing. And why would he push so hard if he didn't love him? And now, I'm not saying, like, again, don't read that out of context. All I'm saying is the reason he didn't kill him was because he still had feelings for him. He's a monster, and I don't necessarily believe he's redeemable. The series, there's a whole series to go on, like, to see what he does with the rest of his life. We'll see about that. But in that moment,
you got to see him cry. He cried, Kaiser.
It's just really... He did... I was actually sort of surprised to see that. I actually didn't realize that until my second watch through. I was like, oh my god, yeah, he actually fucking cries as he's flying away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's so interesting to see him break in that moment. And I'm really looking forward to whenever he comes back in whatever capacity that is. He obviously is going to come back. He can't not. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
It's and also, Mark now doesn't have his get out of ass whooping free card anymore because Daddy's not going to be there to whoop the ass that whoopeth thee. So now he actually has to prove that he can be a hero to the planet, and now he has a goal in front of him of, I need to be stronger than that. At least that. I need to be more powerful, and the planet needs to be ready for what's coming. And we get this big montage of all the crazy, kooky shit that's been going on with the replicate the replicators on Mars that now have a hive mind behind them, or I'm sorry, a central core to their hive minds. The Mauler twins back in jail. You get this big flash of like all these things that you can expect in the next season. Just stay tuned to Amazon Prime. And
yeah, I'm so glad we're getting 2 more seasons at least. Oh
yeah,
God.
I'm very excited. And this is like the first time in a long time where I've been like, maybe I will go out and try to get the omnibus, like, the comic omnibus, omnibuses? Not sure. So such a damn good show. And I again want to just say that there is no way this thing would have been as amazing as it were if it weren't for the stellar, amazing cast.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that at all, but holy goddamn shit,
we talked about it a lot. Yeah, we talked about it a lot in the first one. But holy shit. It just all of JK's deliveries in like the final 2 episodes, like fuck, man. And
J.K. Simmons has always been a really good actor, but this is now my favorite performance from him. This is it. There's no performance from him that tops this. It's good, just so good.
Goodbye, yellow M&M.
Right. I will say, like J.K. Simmons killing it. I want to give a special shout out to the guy who played Cecil. Like a lot of people, I knew some people who read the comics who were like, "That's an interesting choice for Cecil."
He's in a lot of Tarantino films. He's really good.
Yeah, he was perfect. He was pitch perfect. I cannot think of a better voice or a better performance for Cecil than the guy that they got. That was, I'm a good liar. I'm a real good liar.
Mm-hmm.
And like that scene is like, but you made her believe you. Like fucking Deborah. And oh God, the side's like, hey, you hurt Deborah, not me.
Yeah,
but we have that in common now. And I'm like,
oh
my God.
That whole scene, if it weren't for the emotional climax that was the confrontation between him and Mark, that scene right there might have been my favorite, where like they're talking, he's just zapping out of the way to try to stay alive. They slap him out of the sky with the hammer of dawn, and I love his reaction. They wouldn't dare. Boom.
Yeah, no, that's some good shit. It is also really funny to me that there's got to be a term for this trope where the villain is almost beaten, but then the hero mistakenly does something to help them, and if they hadn't, everything would have been fine. Everything would have been fine if the hero hadn't saved his father from the fucking kaiju.
The rule of Goku.
Oh, it's just he didn't know. Like if he'd have known, I think if he'd have known that his father was going to do what he was going to do after, he may not have helped. May not have. That's not even like certain. But damn.
Maybe if he had already been revealed and he had already destroyed Chicago and then they dropped the kaiju, maybe then. But
there's actually a term for it. It's called "nice job breaking it, hero." That's good. I like that.
That is a good one. But no, this show is fantastic. I cannot wait for season 2. It is so good. I've seen it through 4 times.
Who's your favorite character?
Oh damn. It still might be Omni-Man, just because like I don't know. He's kind of the anti-Endeavor, because he seems like an actual good family man, but then he's like a real piece of shit underneath. I don't know.
He reminds me more of like it's like Goku by way of Vegeta, or is it Vegeta by way of Goku? Yeah, he's Vegeta by way of Goku.
Maybe I could see that a little bit. Like he's definitely. He could definitely be the Lancer type, but for the longest time, one of my favorite side characters was actually Donald. Like when he's out there just doing all the random stuff, he looks so out of place everywhere. My favorite was when he was like, "Yeah, no, I think the kaiju might still be alive," and then it like wiggles. Just fucking great.
I was honestly Donald's death is easily the saddest one. Like, I was like, no, Donald, you did so good for so long. You were ready to kung fu fight a kaiju. God damn it.
Yeah, this show's so full of good characters. Like, I'd have an easier time listing some of the characters that I thought were like weaker. I think Rexplode is a little too much of an asshole. Just a little too much of an asshole.
Yeah. I love Jason Sudeikis, but unfortunately, that dialogue combined with that voice and delivery, like, again, I love Jason Sudeikis, but he does have sort of a voice that really leans into being kind of a total douche, and they know that. They know that. That's why they cast him the way that they cast him. He himself is probably cool and fun and awesome. When his voice is always basically, "Oh, you piece of shit."
I didn't have a problem with the performance. It's just the character itself I had a problem getting behind.
Well, tell me the performance isn't part of the character, though.
I mean, it absolutely is, but I think the writing and the way he, comes off, I think how they wrote him, the performance was perfect.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It was. But yeah, performance was perfect. But unfortunately, by doing that, they made a character every part of that created a character who was kind of a little too much.
Yeah, you want him to have his comeuppance. When he gets his comeuppance, it's like, okay, cool. But he never seems to learn. Like, by the end, you start to like him a bit more, because I did really like the scene at the end where they're all wiping up the blood. I think they need to do a lot more to endear us to the characters, some of the Guardians of the Globe that haven't really gotten much of an introduction. Black Samson needs more expansion. Shrinking Ray needs more.
Yeah, right.
And Duplicate always felt like kind of a nothing character too.
Also, they really rushed the blood cleanup. I'm sorry. You didn't earn that. You didn't earn that. You went and you helped clean up after the city, and you had one good fight where you guys worked together and you still got your asses kicked. Sorry, but I don't kind of feel like you really earned the, oh yeah, we're the new Guardians now feel that it was when they cleaned up the blood. Sorry, I don't think so. But it's fine. It's fine.
Especially when it feels like Adam Eve is more powerful than all of them.
Yeah, Adam Eve's got some Omega level shit going on.
She can reconstruct the atoms in the environment. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like she's not utilizing her power to the fullest extent, and I hope we see more of that coming. Moving forward. It
has to have some sort of limitation, or else she literally would be a god.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see how that pans out. There was also there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up before we wrapped it up. What was it? Damn, I can't remember.
We talked about Titan. We talked about Robot. We talked about Battle Beast. We talked about the climax.
Yeah. There's fucking the earthquake guy. Doc Seismic.
Oh, Doc Seismic, and how he has little magma men following him now. I thought he was fun.
By the way, I kind of love that character. He's he's really funny. He's actually really funny.
He's delightfully camp. He feels like he's out of the golden age of comics perfectly.
Yeah, but they also mix that with these progressive views that he's got, which I found really funny. I feel like I don't feel like that's them trying to make commentary on people with these ideas are bad.
Racists, slave owners.
Yeah, I don't feel like they're trying to mock progressivism by making a villain with those views. I think it's more oh hey, look, he's got these progressive views, but he's also trying to destroy the world. So that's neat.
Yeah, they also say he gave himself brain damage by giving himself concussions every time he uses his earthquake bracelets.
Yeah, no, he's really funny. I actually got a big kick out of him the moment he showed up.
I did love that in the final little montage we do see him just surrounded by lava men. He's alive! Yay!
I'm kind of I was a little bit sad when he died. I was like, oh man, I wanted to see more of him.
And now we potentially will.
Absolutely will.
One thing, I love that. Man, there's so much I love about this show, but I just want to talk about one more thing in particular. The fact that they absolutely no-sold what felt like was going to be an episode plot. Do you remember when that one dude was just in like that mummy's chamber resurrecting the mummy? Yeah, it's like, now I shall reign eternal, and then fucking like a sandstorm sweeps by. You think that's part of the mummy curse or something, but no, it's just Mark flying too low over the Sahara, and then it knocks the fucking plate down and traps the thing again.
That was funny as shit.
When they no-sell big plots, it's amazing just by being powerful.
That's why. When the show is at its best, it's peak. When it's at its worst, it's kind of trite. And I think that's great. And it's very rarely at its worst. Like, its worst is like 2 episodes where they kind of drop the ball. But yeah, that's why I give it an 8.5, because I can point out several problems I ultimately had with it. But that being said, that 8.5 is a solid, hard 8.5. That 1.5 that's taken off of it is some concrete stuff that's just, if they can get over, I could totally see this being a 9, maybe even a 10 in the next season if they do it right.
Yeah, this
I have no idea how they're going to, like, how are you going to follow up the finale of the season?
I have no idea.
How the fuck do you do that?
Like, you need the season break for that. You need time away from this show to let that hit. And then you can come back.
I'm also glad that Robert Kirkman has been rewriting some stuff. Let's just say there's a lot of early 2000s humor that would not very well translate to nowadays. Like, you know the scene where William's like, hey, take me for a flight. I'm going to just fly around for a bit. And fucking Mark gives into it and flies around with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the original shot when they're flying around, fucking Mark has to say, this is so gay. Which I would have laughed at back then, but it's like, okay,
it's early 2000s humor. When the word gay was a punchline.
Yeah, and he's a straight dude, and it's like, oop, this is so gay. Yeah, we get it. Like, at this point in the show, in the comic, it took a while until William even came out at all. In the first episode, he's like, is this a straight thing? I don't get it. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm glad.
Yeah,
William is just...
They wrote it very well for a modern audience.
Yeah, it's 2020/2021. He can just be out now. There's no reason to fucking work up to it and make it a whole fucking big deal. And I was happy about that.
Yeah, let us know what you thought in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or feel free to let us know over on our Discord if you're listening to this on your podcast preferred. And of course, if you're here live on twitch.tv/stream4star, where we record these every other Wednesday, we'd love to hear your feedback as we've been seeing it throughout. This has been the Talkcast Pod Show. Stay happy and healthy, everybody. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.
Later.